I used to believe that the boundaries between the waking world and nightmares were rigidly defined. That was until the night my dreams reached out, crossed those lines, and let something very real and utterly terrifying slip through. I was 12 years old, navigating the maze of adolescence while living in a house that, for most of the night, was as empty as a ghost town. My dad worked the graveyard shift, and my mother had left us years ago. When the weekend rolled around, I would stay up way past my bedtime, as if I could stretch each minute to last forever. But time is a relentless force, and it wasn't long before the clock ticked closer to 1 a.m. My dad had always been insistent on one thing before leaving for work: lock all the doors, so I did. I heard the latch click into place and felt the cold metal beneath my fingers, a simple mechanical process that always gave me the illusion of safety. And with that, I retreated to my room, surrendering to sleep. But my descent into the unconscious realm was short-lived. Around 2 a.m., I was jolted awake by the sound of knocking, a deliberate rhythm pounding from the back door. Dad must have forgotten something, I thought. Yet, the knocking persisted. My heart began to crawl up my throat. Why wouldn't he just use his keys? Then the knocking stopped. Relief washed over me like a cooling wave, only to be shattered as the sound reappeared, this time at a kitchen window. "It's just Dad. It's just Dad," I repeated in my head, but my body was as tense as a coiled spring, drenched in a cold sweat. The knocking meandered from one window to another, each knock growing harsher and more insistent. It was as if an invisible hand had clenched around my vocal cords, leaving me mute and paralyzed in a pool of dread. Each knock echoed like a drumbeat in a dirge, slowly making its way toward my bedroom. The curtains on my window were painfully thin, a porous barrier between me and whatever stood outside. It was then that I saw him, a silhouette with the darkest eyes, shielded by a ski mask, a morbid design imprinted on it. His head tilted ever so slightly, like a predator evaluating its prey. I tried to scream, to expel all the fear strangling me, but not a single sound would escape. I closed my eyes, chanting internally, "It's not real! It's not real!" When I opened them, he was gone. Just as I was about to convince myself that my mind had tricked me, a whisper cut through the silence, sharper than any blade. "I'll cut you." As abruptly as it began, everything stopped. The paralysis lifted, and the stranglehold of fear loosened. But the eerie sensation lingered, leaving me questioning the fabric of reality. Was this still a dream? Had I crossed into some uncanny valley where nightmares bled into the waking world? The morning light offered no comfort. When my dad returned from work, I inquired if he had come back earlier and knocked on doors and windows. He looked at me, puzzled, his face a landscape of wrinkles and worry. "No," he said, "I didn't." I never found out who or what was at my window that night. But sometimes, when the world around me falls asleep, and I find myself in that vulnerable state between wakefulness and slumber, I feel an unsettling presence watching me, waiting. There are moments now when the night air grows too still, too quiet, and the boundaries between reality and nightmare blur again. And I wonder, could it be that on that fateful night, the door I had so carefully locked was not enough to keep out the dangers from the other side? Was the real danger never outside, but a thin veil away, waiting for the right moment to cross over again? Let's just say these days I double-check the locks. But more than that, I'm learning how to lock something far less tangible, the doors within my own mind. Yet, I can't shake off the feeling that whatever it was, it left something behind. A sliver of itself inside me, biding its time for the perfect moment to resurface. I pray that moment never comes. But deep down, I know it's not a matter of if, but when. I still feel the chilling weight of what happened a couple of months ago. It's etched into my psyche, an eerie engraving that refuses to fade. I was working 2 jobs, leaving home at the crack of dawn and coming back near midnight. The grind was ruthless, but it was a life I'd accepted, until I realized I wasn't alone. I remember that first night vividly. My house smelled of lavender air freshener and tasted of a solitude only a workaholic could appreciate. After a draining 16-hour day, I got home and initiated my nightly ritual. I undressed, turned on the shower, and felt the warm water caress my weary body. That's when I heard it, a faint rustling beyond the bathroom door. I muted the shower and listened. Silence. I shrugged it off as the house settling. These old structures have a language of their own, a symphony of creaks and moans that you get used to. Or so I thought. That night, lying in bed under my duvet, I felt an uncanny sense of disquiet. The air felt denser, as if someone had poured invisible ink into it, and it swirled around me in indistinct patterns. The sounds came again, soft, subtle noises, like footsteps but fainter. Not wanting to yield to paranoia, I reminded myself that houses make sounds. It was the wood breathing or the pipes talking. So I closed my eyes and willed myself to sleep, ignoring the groans and whispers that seemed to fill my home. By the next morning, the weight of fatigue was unbearable. I dragged myself through the day, half dead but grateful for coffee. When I got home that night, I was desperate for a peaceful slumber. I turned the shower knob, but before the water could even hit my skin, there it was again, a sound outside the bathroom door. This time it was unmistakable, a scuffling as though someone was swiftly moving across my bedroom. My gut twisted into an apprehensive knot. Fueled by a sudden surge of adrenaline, I stepped out of the shower, wrapped a towel around myself, and opened the bathroom door. Nothing. My room was exactly how I'd left it. My mind reeled, entertaining possibilities that were more disturbing than comforting. Could someone be living in the walls or beneath the floorboards? A vivid, disturbing thought I immediately regretted allowing into my consciousness. Nonetheless, I did a quick sweep of the entire house, confirming it was empty, or so it appeared. I slept fitfully, and then it happened. I woke up to an encompassing darkness, paralyzed by a silence that wasn't silent at all. The absence of noise felt like a presence, a heavy dark matter that filled the room. Then my eyes caught it, a sliver of movement from under the door, a shadow that vanished into the hallway. My heart pounded like a war drum, each beat drowning out rational thought. I threw off the covers and flung the door open. At the far end of the hallway, I saw him, a shadowy figure, menacingly tall, with eyes that glinted like daggers in the dark, eyes filled with a tumultuous sea of anger and restlessness. In that split second, our gazes locked, and the weight of his stare felt like chains around my soul. I slammed the door shut and locked it, my hand trembling on the cold knob. I heard footsteps scurry down the stairs and pause. I held my breath, counting each agonizing second that followed. After what felt like an eternity, the sound of the front door creaking open and shut whispered through the house. He was gone. The police arrived soon after, searching the house and collecting evidence. He's been living here for days, one officer speculated, citing small caches of food and water they'd found. But they never caught him. I couldn't shake the disquieting thoughts that spiraled in my mind. Was he sleeping in my bed before disappearing into a hiding spot whenever I came home? What was he doing during that extended pause downstairs? I keep wondering, turning every possibility over in my mind like a dark gem. He knew I'd seen him. He knew I'd called the police. And yet, he took his time before leaving, doing something, gathering something. What? I may never know. But the more unsettling thought is that he might come back to finish whatever sinister thing he started. Nothing feels the same anymore. Each creak in the house is a footstep. Each shadow, a lurking figure. Each silent night, a quiet before a storm that only I know is coming. The man remains a faceless phantom, an unsolved enigma that has shattered the sanctuary that was once my home. I don't know his identity, and that is the darkest shadow of all, one that has settled deep within me. I wait, I wonder, and I listen. Because in this house of sounds, silence is the most horrifying noise of all. If this story sent shivers down your spine and you're hungry for more tales that will haunt your nights, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Have you ever experienced something as spine-chilling? If you dare, share your own unsettling stories in the comments below. Your experience might just be the next eerie tale we explore. Don't forget to click on the video popping up on your screen right now to join us on another dark adventure that's sure to make you question every creak in your house and every shadow on your wall. Until then, listen carefully, because sometimes silence is the most horrifying noise of all.